Welcome to Thought Leader Life, where we are helping to democratize thought leadership. Join us each week where we interview a new thought leader about what it takes to become and maintain thought leadership in a number of different vertical markets. To learn more, check out www.thoughtleaderlife.com. I'm Mitchell Levy, the AHA guy from AHAthat, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Thought Leader Life. This is episode number 144. And are you guys in for a treat? On this episode and the next four, I have Lisa McDonald joining me. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. How are you?
Oh, I'm awesome. Thank you. And you?
I'm amazing. Thank you very much for having me.
Amazing. Awesome and amazing. See, when you respond with your one-word response, it could be more than one syllable, but it has to start with a letter A. And so we are going to be talking about legacy and what does that mean in today's world and so on. So first of all, I guess, Lisa, probably the first thing we should say is quickly, who are you, right, for the audience? And then we'll take it from there.
Well, I think I'll mention that, but I also think it's important for people to understand the connection and the correlation between you and I and our relationship and what brings us together here on this panel and platform. So my name is Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald. I was very honored and humbled for a couple of different reasons in terms of my relationship here with Mitchell. Formerly a radio guest of mine, I believe it was a year ago now, although time goes so quickly, it could be a year and a half, I have no clue.
It's it's legacy out there somewhere. Okay.
Legacy lingering, yes. And then, of course, Mitchell and I have maintained ongoing contact, and it's turned into a lovely sponsorship of Living Fearlessly for Lisa McDonald, and now it's turned into this series that Mitchell's just pre-announced in terms of the next 4 videos, interviews, talking with certain panel members that we selected thinking that they were going to be dynamite, stellar guests in which to impart their thoughts as it pertains to legacy. So I want to say I'm very grateful to be a part of this with you, Mitchell. This is wonderful. Thank
you. And vice versa. It's fun, by the way, in today's world when you get to meet people and interact with them. And then because you get so many great opportunities. And then when you get a chance to do it again and again, and it's one thing to see somebody on a telephone call or a live video call. It's another thing to include them into the content you're producing. And it's also fun to see you in action.
Fantastic. It truly is. It truly is. I love this. And of course, when I'm doing my weekly radio show, it's airways, it's done through Skype, and it's all audio as opposed to this format, which I much prefer. So it's a nice treat for me. So thank you very much once again.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. So we kind of got who you are.
Yes.
And how did we, I think what happened is you and I said, hey, let's do something together. So that was step one. And then we're like, what should we do?
Right.
And for me, what was interesting is as you were talking about who you are and what you do with you have a number of different clients and you provide a number of services, but there was a interesting thread that tied in there, and it was a thread of legacy. So what does actually legacy mean to you in today's world?
Well, legacy, of course, means different things to different people. I would define it for myself as being something that is very profound in terms of what we're doing in active time and doing that in succession, not taking for granted the time and space we are allotted and afforded, knowing that at any point that could all be taken away from us. So making the moments really truly matter in here and now time, knowing that there's going to be memories instilled upon those who have been somewhat connected to us, whether it be connected in the global world, but they don't have a personal relationship with you per se, your family, your children, your community, any areas in which you have taken upon yourself to exercise some type of leadership, you've believed staunchly in some type of advocacy or message, something you've done in terms of propelling the trajectory of other people's lives, anchoring other people up, either as somebody who's either an agent, agent of change, a thought leader, an influencer, somebody who, and it's not about hierarchy and it's not about status. It's about, were you the best parent that you could possibly be? Were you a contributing member of society? Were you actively a team member, even if you operated as a solopreneur in your collaborations and your partnerships with people? Did you continuously pay it forward, and were you of service? And I think if you can answer yes to any or all of those questions, then that's what formulates this term legacy in terms of how you will be remembered long before or after you're gone in the physical sense here. So I'm committed to those types of thought processes all the time. It's not from an egoic standpoint. It's not from a narcissistic standpoint. It's about, people are always going to formulate their opinions of you one way or the other. I'm very committed to very clearly knowing who it is that I am. I don't get caught up in, oh, does he like me? Does she like me? Did they get what I mean? I'm not into any of that. But for the people who I refer to as tribes, so vibe attract tribe, the people who I've interfaced with on a coaching, mentoring basis, people within the C-suite, people who I used to work with once upon a time for 25 years in social services, people who may remember my name, may not remember my name, given that they were in crisis, but perhaps learned something in their time of being in shelter before, getting on solid ground and rebuilding and reinventing themselves. So, we don't know to what degree what we say, what we do, and the example that we portray out there to other people, what that instills in other people, either as confidence building, whether it's like, an aha moment in terms of, wow, I never thought that was something that I could incorporate into my daily activities or my way of interacting and interfacing with people. So it's just being the breathing, walking, talking example of all the good things that you wish to leave behind in the memory of other people.
Interesting. So as you were speaking, there was something that was coming to mind, and I don't know if I'll get it 100% right, and I can't even give you the attribution of where it came from. So you could feel free to correct or add. So what I heard, and I wish I could remember who it came from, we die 3 times. So 1, when we stop contributing to society, 2, when we physically die, and 3, when the last person who met us directly passes away. So that's an interesting way to think about it. So when I heard, and by the way, love your series of questions, and I'll have to rewind and back up and go through it again, because it's like you were ready. They rattled, right? And so the question becomes, or the statement that I think, if I'm summarizing what you said, your legacy is contributing to society in a servant leadership sort of way, so that people both today when you're living and tomorrow when you are no longer physically on this plane still remember your name.
Absolutely. Well, when we reference any other key component of things we would want to be conscious of or awaken to or cognizant of, whether we're talking about, let's say, for example, global warming, the climate, Mother Earth, we want our children to inherit the planet better than what we did. So if we look at things from whether it be an abstract level, whether it be a concrete, black and white set of standards, it's no different to how we would want to be viewed ourselves in terms of legacy. What is it that our children and our family members are going to inherit down the road? I've got something going off here in the background. Can you just hold on for 1 second?
Sure.
Sorry. Okay. Don't remember this as part of my legacy.
I think it might be hard to forget. So I know, I just realized as yours was ringing, mine started ringing as well. And before I have
Sorry.
to, oh, that's right.
That's never happened to me before.
That's all right. This is part of the legacy. That's okay. So I think, Lisa, one of the things that's unique about today's world than, let's say, even a decade ago, that happened. Now, by the way, since we're live on Facebook, you can't undo that, right?
No.
But a decade ago, we would go, oh my God, I blew it forever. nowadays, here's the interesting part. This is life, right?
Yes.
So if you're a mom and your kids come in, jump on a lap. If you have cats or dogs, you know,
Right.
um, can I tell you that this is something I wish happened. It was about 4 years ago, and it was a Saturday morning, and the person we were interviewing was a man, and we were in his house, and it was me and one other co-host, and we were doing this for a half hour, and apparently we got to the end, and as soon as we hung up, he goes, "Did you hear my daughter?" And I go, "No, we didn't." He goes, "Oh, that's so good," and he goes, "You know, it was fascinating." He goes, "Well, I'm Mr. Mom today because my wife's out doing stuff, and I'm in the downstairs area, and the bathroom is right outside the
I know where
door.
you're going.
And my 3-year-old was on the toilet, and she was yelling at the top of her lungs, 'Is anyone around to wipe my butt?' And you know, I so wish I heard that, because I would have actually said, you know, and I'm not going to mention his name, although I off the top of my head, I'm not sure I can even remember. I would have said, "Hey, you know what? It's okay. Go ahead and take care of your daughter," because so that's the interesting part. This is life, right?
Yes.
And we don't have today that person, that the Emily Post or the Dear Abby that says, how do we live in the online world? And I think part of your legacy is, well, how do you deal with things that come in the middle of life? Because life is more important than just business. And it's particularly if you're going to leave something that's memorable. Anyhow.
Very true. Well, I can attest to that. I had, you should be, if you're not, I'm not scolding you here. I'm just saying this is how prominent this person is in terms of being, I mean, the legacy this person is leaving behind and will leave behind is huge. But Dr. David Suzuki. So, you know, I mean, he's interfaced with Al Gore. He talks about, you know, the climate and the environment. And I mean, he's like a leading expert and just a really down-to-earth, wonderful guy. And so he was gracious enough to have accepted my invitation to be a guest on Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald. And he, you know, coming from Canada, we did our interview on Canada Day, and of course he was grandpa that day, and he had the children with him, the grandchildren, and we talked a lot about legacy, and we talked about his grandchildren being at the center and being core to that. And so when we were talking and we were opening up at the top of the hour, I could hear all these kids in the background, and you know what I really loved? He not once made apology for that. He not once made it sound like it was going to mess up the interview. No, you want me? This is who I am, and this is all of me unapologetically. And I absolutely love that. So I was very cognizant, not just of what people say, but what they do not say. And the fact that he didn't feel any inclination to apologize for that or feel embarrassed, I absolutely love that. He owned that. I'm here giving you and your audience an interview, but my priority and who I'm thinking of when we talk about legacy is my grandchildren. And yeah, they're here with me today and they're making noise in the background. Loved it.
That fits very well in the TED Talk that I did, is being seen and being heard as a thought leader. And we talk about how do you generate trust? And it's with authenticity, integrity, and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, the important part is you don't put on a different hat when you go to the interview. You're just your grandpa. You're not giving grandfather advice when you're on the interview, but your grandfather, and you just do your stuff. Yes. Anyhow, what I wanted to hear from you is not necessarily the names of the guests, but who's coming on. What should we be expecting in the next in the next couple of weeks?
I'll name drop. I have no problems with that.
Well, the only problem with name drops is if things change. So,
no,
but you got at least one we can get. That's pretty cool.
You know, where I'm inclined to agree with you on some level, we were quite selective in who it was that we chose. And I mean, we may do a back-to-back series because I don't want certain people who I still think are very much in the space to feel alienated or excluded, or that they don't fit the criteria for the type of people that we have committed to bringing on to do this series. So because we have a lot of mutual friends, we've interviewed mutual people, and there's a lot of people I very much respect who are not part of this particular series. But so far, the lineup includes first out of the gate is Jeffrey AHAthat. So we, of course, both know him.
Big fan.
Big fan. And Al Cole, who I've been interviewed with, who you've spoken to, he's committed.
Oh, by the way, guys, wait till you hear his voice. It's
utter.
He just started talking. I'm like, oh, see, I couldn't help myself. Like, oh man, no, he hears this all the time. Sure, you got a beautiful voice. I mean, it just, yeah, it's crazy.
He does. And a gentleman who I interviewed only 2 Fridays ago on Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald, CBS correspondent Carmen Gentile. So of course he's his book Blindsided by the Taliban, we talk about legacy. I mean, he was reporting on the war in Afghanistan, and so to me, he embodies living fearlessly, and he's got quite the legacy that he will be certainly leaving behind, which I can't wait to interview him. And then, of course, we have Marshall Goldsmith, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, who I've interviewed on Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald.
That guy.
There he is.
There. So we actually did this stakeholder-centered coaching book with Marshall and Sal Sylvester. So I'm excited to and Sal's already agreed to sort of share this with his network. I'm excited to share, to have Marshall in this perspective, because I actually believe he's done the legacy building his whole life, but specifically in the last year and a half, he's made an aggressive focus on building his legacy. And it's been so beautiful to watch him execute, and the people he's doing it with is spectacular. That's going to be a phenomenal show, as well as the other 3.
Absolutely. And there's something that I just want to circle back on that was kind of key that I don't think you maybe picked up on the way that I picked up on it and what you said is, Marshall's an older gentleman. And so when we talk about legacy, I think what I want to impress upon our messaging here with the people, the listeners and the viewers, and certainly the guests, the panel who we're bringing on in our individual interviews, don't think that you have to have accomplished a certain amount of things or be at a certain middle age or whatever, where you've got a little bit more life experience behind you to feel equipped or legitimized in the discussion of legacy. I think once you are consciously awake and you understand contribution and you understand leadership and you understand paying it forward and being of service, and we're trying to make that part of the mindset of the younger generation coming up, and particularly with my children and my eldest being 10, we're talking about that stuff all the time. This is not something that you just shelve for later on down the road after you've climbed and climbed and climbed, or you deem you've gotten to a point in life where it's justified perceivably to even utter the word legacy. I think everybody should be cognizant and making a concerted effort to be executing that, regardless of age, regardless of status, regardless of job, whether you're a thought leader or you're just like the amazing volunteer who shows up for people who are disenfranchised or immobilized or oppressed or abused, or, whatever it is that speaks to you, do it with 100% conviction, do it passionately. This is what we're talking about when we talk about establishing legacy and being cognizant in terms of our mind, body, spirit, our actions, our words. Is it congruent? Is it aligned? What are people perceivably going to remember about us? So there's no limitation, and there's no expiry date, and there's no preset age as to when any of us on an individual basis should be more so than ever focused on legacy. It should be, as soon as you hear the word, embolden it.
That was a great summary. So I don't need to ask you the summary of what I didn't ask. That was beautiful. So thank you. So if people wanted to reach out to you, I'm so looking forward to the rest of these interviews. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
I'm all over social media, as most people are these days. My preferred social media platform is LinkedIn because it is like-minded business people. It does convert, and it's people, especially in the entrepreneurial space, people who truly value other people's time, knowing that we're doing a myriad of things in succession. And so when people say they want to talk to you, it's really about taking something that they're thinking about and it really having teeth and it really having legs and it really going somewhere. That's why I like LinkedIn, because people are trying to, they're trying to expand upon what time they've got and make the most of it with people who they respect, mutually respect. I can also be reached by my website, which is livingfearlesslywithlisa.com. I can also be reached by email, which is lisa@livingfearlesslywithlisa.com. Please don't Facebook Messenger me. I've got all these, it's just not my preferred method of correspondence. When I am available to take calls, because I'm regularly booking on average 2 to 4 people a week for radio. So when I'm in a position to take incoming calls and have the initial conversation with people to see if they're a good fit, if they deem me to be a good fit, I will put my phone number up there. I'm not going to do that right here, but they're on LinkedIn specifically. I do let it be known what my phone number is if you're serious about talking about radio.
Got it. Thank you so much. And I'm Mitchell Levy. Feel free to Google my name, Mitchell Levy. Connect me on the social media platform that works for you, since the social media companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure my name comes up with their platform. Connect me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, Instagram, Snap. Whatever platform you play on will be the place I want to interact with you. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Thought Leader Life. And Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Mitchell.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of Thought Leader Life. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and activate us by going to thoughtleaderlife.com/activate. Till next time.